I'm nervous because I just bought an awesome stack of comics, but the reason that I got them spells doom for the future of the comic book market, because I got them from a lady whose husband helps people declutter, and he recently helped an elderly man clean out a storage unit that was filled with all kinds of things, including 6 totes of Golden Age, Silver Age, and Bronze Age comics, and so she's helping him sell them. But his story concerns me because I think he is just one of many boomers who have had comics just stored away for decades that no one knows about. But in the next 10 to 20 years, as they begin to pass on, their books are going to start coming onto the market. And so there's going to be a flood of Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age comics. And of course, as we all know, the higher the supply, the more it's going to drive down the values. And there are 2 reasons why I think there's so many collections just sitting out there. First of all, anyone who has bought comics knows that all of us have some at least borderline hoarding tendencies. That's why we like to collect. In fact, I was reminded about this earlier today when I saw a video by Razor Comics who mentioned how he had just sold, I think it was 8 short boxes of modern comics, his whole modern collection, so that he could start buying some Silver Age keys. And certainly the idea of that makes sense to me. I'd rather have Silver Age keys than modern comics. But just hearing someone selling 8 short boxes, their whole modern collection, I mean, that gave me some ticks just hearing about it. And so just imagining all of a sudden getting rid of so many comics, it's just hard to do. And so many collectors are just sitting on their comics, especially these older collectors who are the original buyers in the 60s, 70s, 80s, just have these comics, might not even care about comics anymore, but just can't let them go. I mean, that was the case for me. I got out of comic collecting in my 20s for a while, but I never let my comics go, even though for a period of years they didn't really matter to me that much, at least as much as they do now. But I didn't feel that they mattered, but obviously they did because I didn't move on from them. And I think there are a lot of boomers who likely are in that category, especially because number 2, I think even more than Gen X and younger generations, boomers tend to even be bigger hoarders. My parents, my in-laws certainly fit in this category. They grew up generally with less than we did. They were born after the Great Depression, World War II, and so they grew up in a culture that said, hey, you might go back to zero at any time, or war could break out. And so you don't want to get rid of anything because you don't know when you might need it again. And that's certainly true of my parents. And I can relate, even though I didn't even grow up in that culture, I can feel that way. And so imagine, again, if you're born into the time period where you're just a decade or 2 after the Great Depression. Just last week, I was reminded of this when I was making my Sticky Goose parody video because there was a certain shirt I could have really used for one of the characters that had sat in my closet for probably 2 decades. And finally, last year, my wife convinced me to give it away. And just as I give it away, now I all of a sudden needed it. And of course, that's how I then start feeling about everything. Well, I don't want to give anything away because I might need it. I want to keep it. And boomers, even more so than me as a general tendency, do that. You never know when we're going to need it. So I believe this means that there are tons of collections just waiting to come onto the market in the next 10 to 20 years. And so I am trying to exercise some patience in my comic book buying and not feel like, I've got to have this book right now, because I think in 5-10 years, it's going to be a lot easier to get it. So unless I come across some good deals on books, which I did in this case, and I'm going to show you some of the books I got in just a minute, I am trying to hold off. So what are some of the books that I just got? Well, let's start off in the Golden Age with some pre-code horror and Black Cat Mystery, number 53. Then we have a war book, War Adventures, number 3. Then we have Super Magician Comics, number 4. And this is a book that I just sold on eBay. That's why I got to make this video tonight, because I'm sending this one out tomorrow. Got it for $15, sold it for $60. My goal, of course, as I've talked about before, is to get the hobby to fund itself. And so I've bought a huge stack, Most of these I'm going to keep, but I'm selling off enough to pay for everything so that I break even, so that when everything goes to zero, like I say it will in 20 years, I won't have really lost too much money with it. And so, but again, with that hoarder tendency, man, I know I need to sell these so I can afford more. But yeah, I care, yeah, absolutely zero about this book. But when I start to list it on eBay, I'm like, oh, maybe. I mean, if somebody's going to pay $60 for it, there must be something cool about it, right? And it is cool for the right collector, not me. I don't really collect Golden Age, so actually, I'm probably just going to sell most of these Golden Age ones that are going to kind of afford the Silver Age and Bronze Age that I'll show you in a minute. But some Golden Age Batman coming up, and these have seen some better days. They've got quite a bit of wear. But a Batman comic from the 1950s, pretty cool. Detective Comics number 271. And then from 1961, because this has a date stamp on it, so this might actually be Silver Age, Detective Comics number 297. And then this next one I'm pretty sure is from the Silver Age, but it looks very Golden Age-ish, so I'll show it now. Black Knight, number 11. Again, not something I really care for, so this will be one that I'm selling as well, so let me know if you're interested. Next up, we have the Silver Age, and so I got Green Lantern number 29. I'm really excited about this one. The first appearance of the Black Hand. I collect first appearances of villains especially, and so really excited about that one. Speaking of villains, but kind of heroes now also, we got Avengers number 43, the first appearance of the Red Guardian. Avengers number 52, the first appearance of the Grim Reaper, who I hope shows up in the upcoming, which, yeah, Marvel's always going back and forth where this is coming out, but it should come out, Wonder Man. He's Wonder Man's brother. Always loved this character, especially when he would lead the Legion of the Unliving. So I hope to see him on the small screen at some point. Then we have Showcase number 73, first appearance of the Creeper. And then Blue Beetle number 1, which I think this is the second volume, but it's the first appearance of the Question. And then this one she just gave me for free because I've talked about before, if you're friendly and you help people, she is inexperienced with comics, and so answered a lot of her questions, and so this was one she wasn't going to ask much for, and so she just said I could have it. And so it's pretty cool because it is a first appearance of a Silver Age character. It's Peter Cannon Thunderbolt number 1, and this is a really interesting character because he obviously was created by Charlton. Charlton got bought out by DC, and so that's when Blue Beetle and a lot of characters move over to DC. And this guy had a DC series at some point, but he now has most recently had a series with IDW, and so I don't know if they sold the rights or what happened, but I need to look more into that. But yeah, kind of a cool book. Let me know if you know anything about this character in the comments. Then we've got The Witching Hour number 1. And Doctor Strange number 169, which is the first solo title for Doctor Strange. Obviously, it starts in 169 because it had been Strange Tales, but it becomes Doctor Strange in 169. All right, let's move to the Bronze Age. We have The Monster of Frankenstein number 1. This is really timely for Halloween with some of these horror books. And then we have The Monster of Frankenstein number 2. And these contain the first appearance of Frankenstein in Marvel Comics and The Bride of Frankenstein, respectively. We have Marvel Superheroes number 18, the first appearance of my Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the Guardians of the Galaxy that I grew up on, and of course we've seen Yondu in the big screen, but I hope we see some of these other characters eventually one day as well. We have Giant-Sized Creatures number 1, the first appearance of Tigra. Captain Atom number 84, which is the first appearance of the new Captain Atom, or he's redesigned or whatever it is. And then we have Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, number 1. Of course, the first appearance of Luke Cage. And I already have one copy of this. And when I get back to grading at some point, I'm probably going to send this one off, and I'll keep whichever one is the higher grade, sell the other one. It's going to be close. The one I have is a 6.0, and I think this could beat it. I think it could get a 7.0. I hope so. And then I'll sell the other one. And finally, we have Justice League America number 75, the first appearance of the modern Black Canary. So lots of awesome books. Tell me which was your favorite one. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like, comment. Thank you.